Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Libra for March 2017. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, to see what's new on my blog. There's lots more there this month because I went blog crazy about various topics. And while you're there, you can see if I still have slots available in my Astrology apprenticeship program. So if you want to learn astrology, either for personal or professional use, then check out my course. So what's going on in the month of March? We still have news coming in from the eclipses. Big life-changing news that comes in at eclipse time still filtering in. Effects are still being dealt with from the month before, and for some people the news won't actually come until March, whatever that news is. Not everyone experiences big news during the eclipses, but you will notice that if it's not you, then tons of people around you have a lot going on. So we've got that. We've got two clashes between Titans. I call the outer planets Titans because when they come together, there are these long-term stories and themes that are going on. We've got two sets of those clashes to talk about. We have the astrological new year that includes the energy of the new moon in Aries, which follows closely behind when the sun moves into Aries, which is the best time of the year to do your vision board that plants the seeds for the things you want to create in your life. So March 27th is the best day for that. So we'll go into way more detail about the general transits, but first I want to go into some specific things for Libra. I have covered extensively the topic of Venus retrograde through blog and another video called Venus Retrograde's Do's and Don'ts. I have a blog with that name and a video with that name. The intention for this horoscope is to focus on Venus retrograde through the houses that are relevant for Libras, okay? So Venus is retrograde from 13 degrees of Aries back to 26 degrees of Pisces. So most of the transit is occurring in Aries. All people, all signs will experience what it's like to have Venus retrograde in Aries and Pisces. But depending on where it is for your sign, that's going to add more additional stories and themes and things to work with. So Aries rules the 7th house for Libras, but that does not mean that just because you're a Libra that this retrograde is going to focus on the 7th house. It depends on what your placement is. So early degree placement, so the first 10 days of the sign or the first 10 degrees, like 0 to 9 degrees, if you're watching for your rising sign, you will experience most of this transit in the 7th house. But you will also, the early degree placements will experience at least part of the transit in the 6th house. Some middle degree placements will have a little bit in the 7th house, but mostly in the 6th house. Other middle degree placements will have 6th and 5th house, and late degree placements will have 6th and 5th house. So basically, all Libras will have a predominant experience of Venus retrograde in the 6th house, except the early ones, which will have the predominant experience in the 7th house, with part of the experience in the 6th house. So I'm going to go into detail about that. Venus rules Libra. So, and Venus, the aspect of Venus ruled with Libra is relationships. So the biggest thing that's going to be highlighted for early degree placements, and this is going to be a theme for all of you placements, but even more so because of the house placement for the early degrees. You're going to have this be all about your relationships. Okay, so when we're looking at Venus retrograde in the 7th house, we're basically questioning, addressing, restoring the magic of relationships. Some people will be doubting relationships that were working. For some people, you'll have relationships that weren't working and then things really come to a head. Some people know that they're with their partner that they want to be with, and so Venus retrograde gives you a chance to iron out challenges and bring some magic back. Sometimes people in a romantic relationship are separated from their partner at this time because their partner has to be away. I've seen many Venus retrogrades that have brought a partner away to do some business or do something. You know, it's just the energy of a cooling off, a going backwards, a looking inward, having to do with love. So, some questions to ask, or like proactively, or that will naturally come up during this time. In what ways do you perceive your current relationship is assisting you on your highest path? In what ways do you, and this could be any relationships, not just romantic, in what ways do you perceive your relationships as hindering you on your highest path? Are your perceptions about the other person and your relationship correct, or are you projecting your patterns onto the other person? And usually there's a little bit of both of that going on, you know? Relationships are not one-sided, even if it feels that way sometimes. And we project our issues. We're the common denominator in the issues that we have had in our lives. If someone else is reflecting for us a pattern, we had that pattern before that person came in our lives. So we have to look to see, are we unfairly holding someone in a place of reflection because we're not doing our inner work? How can I create win-win relationships? Yes, the topic of win-win relationships is one of the biggest ones for everyone with Venus retrograde. How can you be better heard in relationship? Are you hearing other people in relationship? How can you better hear them? What do you want in relationship? How can you articulate what you want so that you have a better chance of getting it? What people from your past are you feeling drawn to reconnect with? Many a business idea or moving forward in the future with love or beauty or money can come from going back into the past. So it's important to take seriously people that you might be drawn to contact, or people who are contacting you from the past. Okay, so some really great resources for Venus retrograde in Libra are individual, couples, family counseling. If you can spend any time dealing with your issues, working with a coach, working with a counselor, with your partner, this is going to be time very well spent because it will help you to get clarity as to whether or not you can move forward together. Although it's not necessarily the time to make the decision when you're in the retrograde. You want to wait till the retrograde does its full thing. So from March 4th through April 15th, we're in the retrograde. And then you have a shadow period that goes well into May, you know, but this is a good time to explore the question, but not necessarily make decisions from what the answers that you're finding. So, so doing things to help magic return to current relationships, you know, stirring things back up from the past that you used to love, that used to be wonderful for you. And so my affirmation for you is, I choose to sharpen my listening skills as it relates to self and others. Okay, so most of you are going to experience this transit in the 6th house. So let's talk about what that looks like. The 6th house rules pets, health, your daily routine, medical diagnostics, your daily office life, your supplements, you know, self-employment, how you get your work done, your systems, etc. So Venus going backwards in this area can bring up questions about the workplace or self-employment methods. So you will often have people from the past or opportunities from the past come up, or a chance to get back to tried and true principles. Back to basics is a really major theme for Venus retrograde. So anything you can do with your health to get back to basics, you know, just simple eating right, exercising, minimizing stress, you know, very simple. Health has gotten very complicated, and sometimes that comes from people trying to avoid just exercising and eating in a way that makes sense, you know. So this is a really great opportunity to look into that. Sometimes money owed to you from past work could come back during this time. And bonuses from work for past performance could show up. Something involving a pet may surface from the past. If you're involved with a business involving animals, this will be especially relevant for you. Anything involving business or money, it's always better to go back to basics, go back to tried and true stuff, go back to clients or types of work that you did before. If you're out of work and you're looking for work and you're having trouble getting a job in a certain profession, if you've had a history in another profession, the Venus retrograde might bring you back to making money how you did away in the past. So you can use that to guide you. If you have a nagging health symptom come up, you definitely need to look into that anyway, but especially when you have Venus retrograde in your 6th house. Anything going on in the 6th house, especially retrograde, really needs to be looked into. Okay, so some questions that you can proactively ask or things that might naturally come up because of the transit are, do you love your job? If not, what can you do to have a better work experience either at that job or at a different job or in a different vocation altogether? What are some of your ideas for plan B? Note that you can work on plan B in the backdrop during Venus retrograde, but it's not necessarily the best time to make the decision about going for plan B unless it's in the backdrop of your regular work. It's a time that you want to be really smart with money and smart, just conservative and smart with money. Okay, do you need a new health, exercise, routine, diet regimen? Do you have benefits coverage that you could be using? There are many insurance plans that have discounts or even some free benefits that you could have been paying for. So Venus, money, paying for in the house of health. Maybe you've been paying for some health benefits all along that you didn't even know that you have. So it would be a good idea to look into some insurance stuff. Anything you can do to look for motivation and information and resources to help you improve your diet and your lifestyle are very much in order. So the affirmation for y'all then is, I easily create and maintain an effective and fulfilling routine. And that's on every level. I easily create and maintain an effective and fulfilling routine. Okay, so for you late degree placements, you will have a good bit, some of you, depending on the exact placement, will have the bulk of this in the 6th house, but you will have some representation in the 5th house. So we're just going to touch on that, and you can see some more details about this, lots of more details about this in my blog series called Your Definitive Guide to Venus Retrograde Through the Signs and Houses. It's a 12 blog series that really goes into detail, more so than I'm going into right now, including recommended resources. So the 5th house has to do with children and creative projects and hobbies and sports and recreation and things that are fun for you, that are good for you, but it also rules things that are fun for you that are not good for you. So, negotiating addictions or things that have been detrimental for you. It's a house of romance and also called the house of true love. So when Venus is going retrograde in this placement, it definitely increases the odds that a love from the past will come back. And that's a dominating theme for Libras, because some of you have it through the 7th house and some of you have it through the 5th house, and everyone has it through the fact that Venus is retrograde. So this energy of love from the past, and again, this is really equally as likely to come up as a person coming back, a love interest from your past coming back in your life. Many an ex-partner is going to show up in Venus retrograde for you to renegotiate the situation, or you might feel drawn to connect with them. But many people who are attached, this is about your current relationship and has nothing to do with your previous relationships, except for the fact that there may be patterns that are coming up. But often love relationships, especially when Venus goes retrograde in the 5th house, will cool off. Maybe they were going really well and then they cooled off. So you might see that come up. And again, it's just not necessarily a time to make big decisions. It's a time to observe what's going on and to look into whether or not it's worth continuing the relationship, just not making the decision until, this is going to be individual for each of you, and you have to use your intuition to really guide you here, but the energies are not really super clear for making really big decisions in the general horoscopes until towards the end of May, and even then there are things that are coming up. So you just have to follow along for your individual situation to see when is, what is right for you. So anything having to do with fashion or a look from the past could come up, because the 5th house also rules fashion. So it's not a time to buy a new wardrobe, but it is a time to go back to old clothes that you had before. And it's a fantastic time to do the clothing swap. The clothing swap is a fun thing that my friends and I did. I might talk about this after when I talk about the general transits with Venus and Aries, because there's a similar energy here. But basically it's where a bunch of people bring clothes and that they don't want anymore, and then you leave with clothes without having to pay for anything. You have a party about it, So things like that you can try on a new look without spending a bunch of money. That's one of our themes. You don't want to spend a bunch of money during Venus retrograde unless it follows the rules that I put in the Venus retrograde do's and don'ts video and blog as to what the stipulations are if you're going to spend a bunch of money during Venus retrograde. There are some rules and there are some situations where it is appropriate to do that. But mostly, you want to be conservative with your money. So if you have a chance to get clothing at a price that's not very expensive, like free, you want to be all over that. Okay, so these are the things, we had to go in more detail because the way these were hitting, there were 3 houses that were being covered for you all this month. So now I want to talk about these Titan clashes, you know, Jupiter and Uranus, Jupiter and Pluto, and get more into these general transits and how you can maximize the energies to have the most fulfilling life. So I'm calling the theme of the month for the general transit, so this is relevant for all signs. Summon your inner badass. And what I imagine when I'm seeing the energies of March all coming together is a hero that is walking through a scene that we're observing, and there are difficulties coming at them, and they're standing tall and strong and confident and moving through and being triumphant at the end of the challenges. Every month brings challenges and opportunities and sweet spots. I see challenges always as opportunities. So a month that has more challenges in some ways can be a month full of more opportunities. You know, we have started to ask wrong questions in our lives, I think, or questions that cause us to experience life in a disempowered way. When we ask questions, what's going to happen in the stars that's going to stress me out, or tell me what's going to happen, these are disempowered questions. The questions we want to be asking astrology and in general is, help me understand what's going on here so that I can maximize the potentials for my highest expression. And that's what I focus on. So I want to help you ask different questions, and that's part of summoning your inner badass, because the more empowered questions you ask, the more of an empowered life you will live. So we've got multiple important aspects going on this month, and I'm going to go through them and how I think that we can most use them. There are also some lesser aspects that you definitely will feel, sweet days, challenging days, etc. A longer list of those that you can get when you sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. You'll get my monthly write-up, which includes a written version of the things that I touch on in the horoscope for the general transits, and it also includes more things that I don't have time to talk about. So if you have signed up for my email newsletter and you're not receiving it, it could be in your spam or social or events folders, because I do send them out every month. Okay, so the first aspect of the month is March 2nd, and this is Jupiter in Libra opposing Uranus in Aries, and this is happening at 20 degrees. So if you have planets near the 20 degrees, you're probably you're going to be affected more than, you know, these aspects without them, but globally everyone will still be experiencing this. So that expression, things come in threes, is astrological, and that's because often things that we're experiencing come from aspects in the sky, and these ones that are big long-term themes, they usually involve what I call the Titans, the outer planets. You know, it's like a sumo match between these planets that just carry a massive amount of power and a massive amount of potential. So when you have Jupiter, an outer planet, and Uranus, an outer planet, coming together in what could be considered a challenging aspect called an opposition, they're trying to find balance. You know, an opposition is two opposing forces. They're antagonistic, but they can also become synergistic. So the more you can transcend whatever the issue is, the more those planets will work in synastry. So Jupiter wants to expand, and Uranus wants to innovate. Libra is the planet of the sign of we, and Aries is the sign of me. So we've got a me-we aspect of a theme trying to get things worked out that started at the end of December. And this is in March 2nd, it's the second pass. And then on September 27th, we have the final part of the story. These are like chapters in a story that are ongoing. So it's some sort of breaking free from constraints in relationships. And that's basically the theme. So we might perceive someone as limiting us, or someone might be perceiving us as limiting them. And maybe that is true. But what's probably more true is that we have limitations within us as far as how we can experience relationship, and we project that limitation on all of our relationships because it's coming from the inside. So you have an opportunity here to break free from your pattern within yourself, so you can stop enslaving your partner to play a certain role, and you can stop being attractive to those circumstances that are unfulfilling for you. So that's very exciting. So then on March 4th, we have Venus going retrograde. We've been talking about this for a while because the shadow period started at the end of January. And this transit only happens once every 18 months, and there's a lot that goes along with it. So definitely check out my Venus retrograde do's and don'ts blog and video. I'm also writing some other extensive Venus retrograde blogs that you can look for on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. And the basic gist of Venus retrograde is that Venus, we call Venus the triple goddess because she rules love, beauty, and money. So beauty also includes aesthetics in your environment, art, design, fashion, appearance, things like that. So she's going backwards, and when she goes backwards, it's a time to reconsider everything about love, beauty, and money. It's a time to go back to old ideas, old things that worked, old clients. Many people will revisit previous relationships. People who are staying in the same relationship will revisit topics that came up in the past, for better and worse. Venus retrograde is not just a time where unresolved conflicts can come up, although that is definitely a theme. Anything swept under the rug in love, beauty, or money will come back up to be looked at. But it's also a time where lots of magic can return to those areas of life. You can find money. You can have love return to a relationship where it had left. You can find some riches with your self-esteem development, which is another important topic for this retrograde. So we've got that going on from March 4th through April 15th. And it's going to be retrograde from 13 degrees of Aries back to 26 degrees of Pisces. So in the, we talked about where the Venus retrograde is taking place in the house for your sign. For all signs, we will experience Venus retrograde in Aries, which is similar to the first house, or is the same as the first house retrograde, and 26 degrees of Pisces, which is the same as the 12th house retrograde. So depending on where your placements were for your sign, you might be having the same themes come up, or you might be having some additional themes come up. But the general story of Venus in Aries has to do with self-esteem. It's talking about appearance, fashion, how you put yourself out into the world. Pisces has to do with hidden places. So this is a place where this hidden money can come to you, money that you didn't know that you had, or that you hid from yourself, or that was in the backdrop somehow. It's just stuff from the past involving love, beauty, and money. That's the basic gist of Venus retrograde. So then on March 12th, we have a full moon at 22 degrees of Virgo. And full moons, the best way to manage full moons, I think, is to leave some space around them, because full moons are a time when our emotions just sort of shake off. Everything that we've been accumulating for the month coming to fullness is just a time to shake it off, like a dog shakes off water, So often there's something dramatic, or there's something really cool going on that you want to be present for, So I usually keep a little space around the full moons for whenever these manifestations come up, because the best way to deal with them is to be present with them. So Virgo rules health, your daily work, it rules pets. So it's possible that something involving those things could come to your attention, or need attention, or come up as a focus at this time. The full moon is also making quite a lot of aspects, opposing Mercury and Chiron, trining Pluto, and squaring Saturn. So we've got a lot of power at this full moon, I think, to overcome the energy of woundedness. And this is going to be a theme this month because of aspects with Chiron. Chiron is an asteroid that is called the Wounded Healer. And the idea of the Wounded Healer, or my understanding of the Wounded Healer, and as I've observed it through countless charts, is that it's a place of weakness. That deep place where if someone gets at that, then you don't know what comes out. It gets ugly. It's a very wounded place, or a very weak place for you. So the idea of Chiron, the highest vibration, is that you strengthen, you focus your attention on that weakness or that vulnerability, and it becomes a strength. So that's the transcendent version. So like in the instance of the energy in Virgo rules health. Maybe some people have health weaknesses. Maybe they have to work harder to attain health. And when that happens, they might wind up being healthier and staving off other health issues because they had a weakness that made them focus on their health. And if they didn't have that meticulous focus, then they could have created other problems maybe, or maybe they wind up teaching or helping people from it, or improving the lives of others because of what they've had to go through. So this is just an example of how you can take any woundedness that comes up this month or ever and convert it into something positive and powerful and supportive. So on March 20th, we have the beginning of the astrological new year. I never feel like the new year is starting on January 1st, especially when it's in the midst of a retrograde like it was this year and some other years. So March is when the planets start to move into Aries, and the planet of Aries, or the sign of Aries, is the baby of the zodiac. It's that bursting forth, that energy of spring, something new beginnings. So you'll see as the planets are moving into this sign, people get impulsive, they get excited, they get wild, they want to do stuff, they feel active. And this is the energy of New Year. So on March 27th, we have the new moon in Aries, and I always consider the new moon in Aries to be like the kickoff party for the New Year. It's like the New Year starts around March 20th, and then when the new moon in Aries comes, it's like, yay, okay, it's a new year, let's have a party. That's like New Year's Eve, So this new moon in Aries, all the new moons in Aries, so the one new moon that we have in Aries a year, is the best time of the whole year besides your birthday to do vision boards or other seed planting for your future, things that you want in that upcoming year. So definitely take full advantage of that. This new moon also carries a lot of power. It's conjunct Chiron and Venus. It's a square Saturn, and it's coinciding with a Mars and Taurus and Neptune sextile, which is a 60-degree angle. It's a positive angle. So there's, again, a lot of power behind this moon phase. On March 30th, we have our last big aspect of the month, which is the second Jupiter square with Pluto. Similar to how we've been talking about this Jupiter opposition with Libra, how it happened once last year, so did this Jupiter and Pluto aspect. And this one's happening at 19 degrees. On November 24th of last year, this Jupiter and Pluto first pass happened. Now on March 30th, the second pass happens. And then on August 4th, the last pass will happen. So we've got these 3 chapters of this ongoing story. And one of the main themes, I think, of this ongoing story has to do with ambitions, rising ambitions, and the idea of competition and what we have to do or what we're willing to do or what we think we have to do to succeed. In a third dimensional reality, there is competition. There's focus on competition. And there are all of the energies that go along with competition. It's kind of gross, It can be very, very low vibe and not conducive to conscious evolution to focus too much on the energy of competition. My suggestion, I invite you to use this energy to transcend competition and tune into divine timing and your divine path and purpose. So if you're out there doing what you're supposed to be doing and you feel like Spirit is guiding you and you're on track and you're speaking your truth or doing your truth, then it doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing. You will attract to you the people and the customers that will be perfect for you. And so really there's no competition on the spiritual plane. And this is an affirmation from Florence Scovel Shinn, who is one of my all-time favorite teachers. She's not in form anymore that I know of. She wasn't even when she came to me. She had passed a long time ago. So she was teaching about, she was actually teaching about Jesus's work as a metaphysician, teaching about transcending mundane reality while still in form, like bringing heaven onto earth in our experience. And that is an affirmation I got from her. So there's no competition on the spiritual plane. So if you are conducting yourself in a way that is high vibrational, if you are doing everything that is in sync with your beliefs and your values, then you can transcend this energy, so you just check in with yourself and see how this is true for you, and just look out for it, because these themes are sometimes very subtle. Sometimes they come more into the forefront, but overall they're very subtle sometimes. So these are the main things that I am seeing for the month for the general transit. So you have plenty of opportunities to summon your inner badass. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my blogs. I have blogs on all different kinds of topics, not just astrology. If you want to learn astrology with me, then I might still have some slots available in my astrology apprenticeship program. If you want to bring your business online, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course. And if you would like to be a coach as your profession, then you can check out my coach certification course. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.